Thank you, Ferd. On to politics now this morning. There are plenty of political headlines for us to break down, which means we're going to bring in Dr. Heldman, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. Good morning to you. Always great to have you with us on a Thursday morning.
Good morning, Melvin. Great to see you.
All right, Dr. Heldman. So, historic moment today in the Supreme Court. Justice Stephen Breyer notified the White House that his retirement will be effective today at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Katanji Brown, of course, being sworn in. But I want to start with Justice Breyer. What legacy is he leaving behind?
Well, Justice Breyer is leaving the court in perhaps its most controversial stage, certainly in the last half a century. He has been known on the court as often, he's obviously on the more liberal side, but someone who is very careful and plotting in his decisions, someone who is not too far off from the center. He hasn't necessarily been a swing vote for a long time because the court has moved so far to the right. But Breyer leaves, he's leaving the court at a time where the legacy of the court itself will shift so dramatically that I wonder how much we'll even be thinking about him specifically.
And of course, President Biden nominated Judge Katanji Brown Jackson to succeed Justice Breyer. She's already been confirmed by the Senate. When she swears in, Jackson will become the first black woman to ever serve the Supreme Court. What a time to join the ranks, Caroline.
It's a tough time to join the courts, but I can't stop smiling. I mean, this is the first black woman on the court, and we know that representation in politics and judicial positions is so important because it inspires a generation of little girls to see that they could do this too. And it shows, little boys, little girls, and gender nonconforming folks that, hey, this is where women belong, and this is where women of color belong. But yes, she is joining the court during a time where they have lost the confidence of 75% of Americans.
Wow. And I think, I think many of us are still a bit shocked in regards to the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. But we're already beginning to see a shift in the battleground to the states themselves. Lawsuits have now been filed in at least 6 states who are trying to restrict abortions. Do these suits, Caroline, have merit, or is this likely just a delay tactic? What do you think?
Probably a delay tactic. That's a great question. Probably a delay tactic in the sense that the court has already essentially said, look, we want to outlaw Roe. And in fact, I don't think we've even seen the last of what the court will do. If the court calls up a fetal personhood case, as they could next session, they will overturn Roe for the entire nation. At the present time, what they've done is they've sent the decision back to the state, but the states that are outlawing abortion and the folks who are filing lawsuits to stop that from happening already know that the court has the back of the anti-abortion folks. So it's probably a delay tactic.
All right, I want to turn now to the January 6 hearings. We saw thrilling, shocking testimony this week from Cassidy Hutchinson, an aide to former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. She claims that former President Trump knew for days that protesters could potentially become violent and knew that protesters came to his rally carrying weapons. She also claims Trump lunged at his Secret Service driver to try and force him to drive him to the Capitol during the insurrection. Do you think Hutchinson's testimony moved the needle for the American people in the court of public opinion?
Well, if you were watching this and you're someone who was still on Trump's side, you definitely need to be questioning this. And I think the fact that we have Republicans coming out and saying this is a big shift, prominent Republicans, is an indication that the evidence here was overwhelming. I mean, this really was shocking testimony. There's a reason why they added this, similar to Watergate, right? They added it when they were going to release the audio tapes. They did a special session. This is another explosive session where, as you pointed out, Hutchinson drew the line between Trump knowing about the violence beforehand, knowing that there were weapons in the crowd, and using his words to incite them to go to the Capitol anyway.
So, all right, I want to go now to, I want to talk to you about Liz Cheney. She was here yesterday. She spoke at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley. We have a clip about her remarks, and we're going to come back to you, and I want to get your reaction. So let's take a peek.
We have to choose, because Republicans cannot both be loyal to Donald Trump and loyal to the Constitution. At this moment,
You know, this speech yesterday, she issued a very strong rebuke of former President Trump. What is your reaction to her remarks, Caroline?
Well, I think the most important thing about that scene is the rousing clapping, right? It appeared that the room was with Liz Cheney in that moment, which is unusual because this is a room of staunch Republicans. So I don't know whether or not this is an actual shift in public opinion. You know, 2/3 of Republicans believe the big lie. So who knows whether or not that made a dent? But I think that there are a lot of Republicans leaders now who are looking at this and saying, you know, that evidence, hearing those words from Cassidy Hutchinson, which we assume is they're going to be confirmed by others, it was very damning evidence because it really spoke to Trump knowing that there would be violence, knowing that there were weapons, and then not acting. And in fact, even the words about Pence that Cassidy shared, saying that Pence probably, you know, that he deserved it. I mean, it's really shocking.
Shocking indeed. Shocking indeed. Thank you so much, Caroline, for being with us. Wouldn't be a Thursday morning without your analysis. We're going to take a short break, everybody. We'll be back.